Chapter 26. Let's Get Married. The warm season came a little earlier in Rats, the capital of the Berg Empire, located south of Carlsbad. While the roses at Arvis were just starting to bud, the whole city of Rats was already heavy with the scent of roses. Matias suddenly realized this fact as he was strolling through the garden at the Crown Prince's palace. He stopped in his tracks, and the other officers walking with him stopped as well.
Is something the matter?
One of them asked.
No.
Matias tersely replied, smiling slightly.
It's nothing.
A short silence followed and was broken when they continued walking. The Imperial Guard officers, all of them young noblemen, chatted playfully about various topics, as they excitedly discussed how they would spend this wonderful spring weekend. Most of them arrived at similar plans: parties, horse racing, or spring dates with their lovers.
Our captain is going to have a lonely spring, since his fiancée is far away,
said one of the officers. The rest of the group chuckled at this remark. Even Matias himself smiled in acknowledgement. The engagement ceremony of Duke Gerhard and Lady Claudine Brandt, held at the end of the previous summer, had been a success. Following their official betrothal, social circles had been abuzz with gossip about them for quite a while. However, Matias hadn't felt much of a change in his life. A week after the ceremony, he went to the capital to serve in the Berg military's Imperial Guard division. Meanwhile, Claudine left Arvis to return to the House of Brandt, which was located in a city near Carlsbad, far away from the capital city of Rats. Thus, nothing changed in their lives, other than the fact that their engagement had been formally announced. During the social season, Claudine made occasional visits to Rats, where she would stay in a mansion the Brandt family held there. But even this was nothing new. She had been doing it for years. She and Matias also attended social events together, just as they had in the past. The only real change was that they now had a definite official status as each other's fiancé.
My military service is almost over. What about you, Matias?
Asked one of the officers. The rest of the group turned their attention to Matias.
I'm thinking about extending mine another year,
he replied. Everyone reacted with shock at this unexpected response.
Aren't you planning to get married and start focusing on the family business?
I think the wedding can wait until next year.
All the buzz in social circles about the upcoming Gerhard Brandt wedding is already starting to fade, and yet you're postponing it?
Matias nodded. More than a postponement, he viewed this timeline as the way circumstances had naturally ended up. He wanted to spend another year in the capital, while the Brandts wanted their daughter to spend her honeymoon at Arvis. When the Brandt family had asked to postpone the engagement ceremony by a year, the Gerhard family had readily consented. Claudine was still young, so there was no need to hurry. Both families wanted the marriage to be perfect from the get-go. After leaving the Imperial Palace, Matias went straight back to the mansion where he was staying. The stone mansion, located in the heart of Rats, was the second oldest mansion owned by the Gerhard family, after the mansion at Arvis, their main estate. As the residence where for generations the head of the family had stayed when taking care of matters in the capital, its architecture and decor were more stark and modest than that of Arvis, which more reflected the taste of the lady of the house.
The dowagers are here,
reported an attendant as Matias exited the car.
My mother and grandmother.
Yes, Your Grace. They arrived this morning. They came to attend the wedding of Her Highness the Crown Princess.
Matias nodded and slowly entered the mansion. After suffering the embarrassment of being passed over for the role of Duchess Gerhard, the Crown Princess had hurried to find another potential spouse to whom to get engaged. She had settled on the Grand Duke of a neighbouring duchy who was of similar social standing to Duke Gerhard.
It's been a while, Matias,
Katharina von Gerhard exclaimed, smiling brightly and opening her arms to greet her grandson as soon as he stepped into the mansion's main hall.
I guess visits like this are the only way we can see your face these days,
Elise von Gerhard remarked, speaking more candidly than her mother-in-law as always. Matias smiled back at the women as he approached them. It was an ordinary, rosy weekend afternoon.
This evening breeze feels so nice, Leila,
said Kyle, as he parked his bicycle and walked towards Leila smiling. Leila turned her head as soon as she heard the familiar voice. She had been helping Bill load the cart he had just brought from the garden. Bill, who was holding a shovel, also turned to look.
Let's get married,
Kyle added in a matter-of-fact tone. He had been saying this so often, it no longer came as a surprise to them at all. Leila and Bill soon resumed their work.
Hi, Kyle,
Leila said warmly as she brought the remaining seedlings to the cart.
I'm not getting married,
she added in an exceedingly gentle tone, which only made her sound more definitive in her rejection of his proposal. Bill sighed bitterly. Kyle, on the other hand, simply chuckled, having grown used to Leila's repeated rejections, and casually started helping her with her work.
Good,
he said.
I've received my rejection for today. I'll try again tomorrow.
No, don't.
I'm going to. People's hearts change day to day.
This inexperienced young man had perhaps the most brazen, obstinate spirit of anyone in the Empire. Bill tried to suppress his laughter as he glanced furtively at Kyle and Leila. That loafer from the Ettman family had first proposed marriage to Leila at the end of summer the previous year, and had continued to do so regularly throughout several changes of season. When Bill first heard about the first proposal, he figured it must have been due to one of two reasons. Either the lightweight Kyle had been drinking, or he had simply gone crazy. Thus, Bill had refrained from hitting Kyle in the head with his shovel. To Bill's surprise, however, Kyle had shown up the very next day, looking perfectly sane and sober, and had asked Leila to marry him once again. By now, Bill had lost count of how many times Kyle had asked. As autumn turned into winter, and winter into spring, Kyle had asked her every single day, and she had rejected him every single time. At first, Bill had been in support of Leila's firm rejections, but recently he had begun to feel sorry for Kyle. If Kyle had been speaking only for himself, Bill would have been less understanding. But he changed his mind once he found out that Dr. Ettman had granted his permission as well. The previous autumn, Dr. Ettman had paid a visit to Bill's cottage and suggested that Bill send Leila off to college. When Bill had hesitantly replied that as much as he would love to, his circumstances wouldn't allow that, Dr. Ettman had smiled brightly and said,
If Leila and Kyle have feelings for each other and want to get married, wouldn't it be nice if we allow them to do that, and then send them off to college together?
It was a deeply moving suggestion, but Bill had simply stared at the doctor in response, hardly believing what he had heard. Bill cherished Leila more than anything in the world, but there were still many things in the world that he didn't understand, including the high position the Ettman family held in the Carlsbad social scene. Dr. Ettman had seemed to understand this, so he had added,
Kyle told me that Leila brings out the best in him, and that he wants to live with her and become a good person for her sake.
Bill had been quite surprised when he heard that the young rascal who was always hanging out at his cottage and eating up all his food had said such a thing.
He sounded quite sincere when he said it, so much so that I couldn't brush it away as mere childish talk.
But doctor, Leila is...
Bill had started to say before trailing off. Dr. Ettman's smile had then grown even kinder.
I don't require my son's bride to come from a wealthy or prestigious family. I know that Leila is a very good person, despite her humble origins.
His smile resembled that of his son.
If Kyle hasn't changed his mind by the time he settles on a career path next year, then I would like to allow them to get married. How about you, Mr. Remmer?
If Bill were to have expressed his true feelings at that moment, he would have taken the guardian angel Dr. Ettman on his back and run around Carlsbad, or perhaps the entire Berg Empire, with delight. Of course, he knew doing that would have embarrassed Leila, so he curbed his enthusiasm. But what was he going to do about Leila and her adamant refusals now? Resolving to find a way to persuade her to change her mind, he tossed the shovel into his shed.
Oh, Matias. You know Dr. Edmund's son, don't you?
Lady Herhart quietly asked, changing the subject away from the tedious discussion that had been dragging on about the Crown Princess's wedding. Dowager Herhart had gone to bed early, so Matias and his mother were the only two at the dinner table.
Yes, mother.
Matias calmly replied, after taking a sip of water.
Kyle Ettman. Dr. Ettman's only child, right?
That's right. Well, I hear that he's getting married,
she said. Her sharp tone of voice suggested that she was aware that Kyle's bride-to-be was not someone to mention casually. Matias quietly waited for his mother to continue.
His fiancée is that orphan girl that the gardener from our estate raised. I think her name is Leila.
Matias silently mouthed the name. Leila.
It's hard to believe the Ettman family would consider her a suitable bride,
he said in a quiet, flat tone of voice.
That's what's so absurd about it,
Lady Herhart replied.
Your grandmother put in so much effort trying to find the Ettman boy a worthy mate, and all for naught.
She sounded more nervous than before. Matias made no further response, but his mother proceeded to recount all the rumors she had heard surrounding Kyle Ettman's marriage decision, which had been causing a lot of buzz at Arvis. According to one rumor, Mrs. Ettman was quite displeased with her son's choice of bride. She had been hoping Kyle would marry a noblewoman, which would have resulted in the Ettman family gaining an aristocratic title. Another rumor said that if all went according to plan, Leila would be going to college after getting married to Kyle. The couple would have their honeymoon in Rats, and then attend college together. This would all happen once summer was over, once the rose season had passed.
Your grandmother is heartbroken,
Lady Herhart said.
She's always been so fond of Dr. Ettman's son.
Yes, she has been, hasn't she?
Matias put down his fork and knife and picked up his napkin, gripping it so tightly that his knuckles turned white.
And poor Mrs. Ettman,
Lady Herhart continued.
She has built up such a good standing in social circles, despite lacking a title. And now she's going to lose it all because of this ridiculous daughter-in-law.
She took a sip of wine to wet her lips.
What noblewoman would associate with a woman whose heir is married to a lowly orphan?
Perhaps circumstances will change,
Matias said, straightening his posture.
They haven't gotten married yet, after all.
I don't know, Matias. If that were possible, Mrs. Ettman wouldn't be so distraught. Dr. Ettman firmly supports his son's choice, and by all accounts, Kyle is madly in love with that orphan girl.
She clicked her tongue to express her sympathy for Mrs. Ettman, who was soon going to be shunned by high society.
The girl is certainly pretty. It was a mistake for his parents ever to let him spend time with her.
She rang a bell, and maids immediately entered with desserts.
I can't believe she managed to become the future Mrs. Ettman. How brazen of her, or should I say how cunning of her.
Shrugging, she lifted her dessert fork.
I suppose it's silly to blame her. The truly foolish one is Kyle, who is bringing disgrace upon his family because he was blinded by love.
Now that Lady Herhart had reached her desired conclusion, she changed the subject, as she started to blather on about various people from high society. Matias sat quietly, barely listening. Leila. The name lingered on his tongue, like the taste of fine wine. Leila. Leila Llewellyn.
AudiosKoppo.